Okay.
Looking good, Phil. Looking good. So welcome again to Phillip Noyce Part 2, and I wanted to start with Mace today. That was the next step, right? Because we got up to Sliver, we talked about Sharon and all that stuff, and all the tourists with Sharon, and all the tourists with Sharon, and then and so the next thing was Mace, wasn't it? Patriot Games.
I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Mace came before Sharon.
Mace came before Sharon. Patriot Games came before Sharon.
Yeah.
Oh, really? What year was it? It was in '91, was it?
Yeah, 91.
Oh, okay. And then Sharon, and then Clear and Present Danger.
Then more Mace. Yeah.
Okay, but we haven't talked about Mace anyway, so let's talk about Mace. So how did you first meet him?
I had made Dead Calm, which Warner Brothers purchased, and so it came out in America, and it was not successful commercially, but it was a huge hit within the movie business, and producers, directors, movie commentators and writers and critics and so on. So suddenly the phone started to ring off the hook with people offering different projects. And one of the people that I met was Mace Neufeld, producer who had made the first of the Tom Clancy adaptations. He'd actually purchased the rights to, what was the first one called?
The Hunt for Red October.
Hunt for Red October. He purchased the rights from a little-known company, publisher, sort of amateur publisher in Maryland, who picked up Patriot Games from Tom Clancy. And Mace read it and bought the rights to that and any subsequent books, of which there would be many. When nobody knew Tom Clancy, he made the first film with Alec Baldwin as Jack Ryan, and he approached me. My inclination was to stay right away from it because it was a great big Hollywood movie, and which just seemed like much too big a leap for a boy from the bush. But fortunately, one of my agents at the time said, because it's a big Hollywood movie, that's why you've got to do it. And I think he was probably right, because I was able to coast on the success of that film ever since. So he was right. Because what I was entering was a whole new ball game. Basically, ball game was the studio does everything for you. What you're going to do is say action and cut. They buy the book, they get the actors, they get the money, and if you make a good film, that's good. But if you don't make a good film, it doesn't matter anyway, because they've already sold it into the minds and hearts of people all over the world.
But you did make a good film. You made an excellent film. That was an excellent film.
That's beside the point.
Yeah.
It didn't matter whether it was good, bad, or indifferent. It was going to be a hit.
Yeah.
And
so prior to that, Philip, no Australian had really made a giant movie like that, had they, from a long time?
Well,
not a giant studio picture like that.
I don't know.
John Farrow.
I don't know. Maybe you're right. Maybe they haven't. I never really thought about that question.
Well, subsequently, I mean, Skepsy and Peter Weir and all. I mean, Peter Weir, had Peter Weir done anything before that?
I don't know.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
He made a film. He had done a film. He'd done Barbarossa, I think. In the I think Skepsy had done Barbarossa before that.
Yeah.
Which was not a big film. It starred Willie Nelson. Not really a movie. That didn't do any business. But I think Skepsy had a shot.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know whether he'd made.
But was Witness before that? Witness might have been before that.
I think it might have been. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Doesn't
I was
matter.
keeping up with my own success.
Yeah, exactly.
Studying the others.
Sure. So how was that experience? How was that? Sorry, what?
We'd pass each other at the Chateau Marmont.
Yeah.
One Aussie would come in, one would go out. Eventually, Beresford bought a house. I was just thinking about it the other day, and he went back to Australia, and so we moved in to his house. It was like that. We called ourselves the what were we called? The
Gumleaf
Mafia.
Yeah. I've seen a picture of that. It was like Gillian Armstrong and yourself, and was Brett Beresford in that photo?
Yes, I believe he was. Yeah.
So there wasn't an Aussie community in Hollywood prior to the early '90s, a real community of directors. Yeah.
It was a close-knit community because nobody else really wanted to talk to us, but we couldn't get enough of each other. We'd bring around the Vegemite and some Penfolds and stuff like that, and everyone would feel at home. Everyone was, although I was lucky because I went straight to the top.
Yeah.
And of course, Nicole did too. She went straight to the top. So I didn't really have to go through any humiliation, like begging for a job or anything. They were begging me, and I just after being in Australia, where you got paid most of your money from the completion guarantee rebate, meaning if the movie came in under budget, that's where you'd get probably half of your fee. Otherwise, if you went over budget, well, forget about being paid. So suddenly it was all laid out for me.
Yeah.
And my car was almost on autopilot. Sam Neill had a Lexus, so I thought, well, Sam's pretty smart. I'll buy a Lexus. And, my Lexus could go from the hills right there, virtually drive itself through the gate of Paramount Pictures, where I made movies for the next 10 years. As fast as I'd had a holiday, they'd have another one ready for me. It was just one movie after the other for almost 10 years.
Yeah. Well, you're a survivor. And so how was the experience of Patriot Games? So considering I learned a few lessons. One of them was that the test screening. It was the first time I'd had it wasn't the first time I had a test screening, because I'd actually learned about test screenings on Dead Calm. Because I don't know if you know it, but Dead Calm had a different ending originally, and we did bring it over here and tested it in Burbank. And the American audience got upset that Billy Zane didn't get his comeuppance. They wanted the bad guy, they wanted retribution. And so we went back up to Cairns and found a boat that looked like the original boat that they were on, but it was actually much smaller. But it looked like it enough to get away with shooting a new ending where Sam fired a flare into Billy's mouth and blew his head up, which then satisfied the audience, the American audience. They got their blood. But still, it wasn't a commercial success, though.
No, it wasn't. It didn't make any. In fact, it was a silly ending, even though it satisfied the need for retribution.
Yeah.
It just came out of nowhere. The original ending was I guess an art house ending. But anyway, that was my first lesson. The next one came on Patriot Games, where at the end of the film, Harrison fights underwater with Sean Bean, and it was again, it was about retribution. It was inconclusive as to how Jack Ryan had killed his nemesis, because actually he sort of was he had more air in his lungs, and the other guy just sort of drowned, but it wasn't quite clear. So we had to go back to a swimming pool over at Sunny Pictures and dive in the water, and Harrison had to finish. No, actually he didn't. That's right. He didn't finish him. That's how he finished him originally.
Right.
It was not clear. And the look on his face, he didn't, Sean Bean was not punished enough. That's right. That was the original ending. So then, with 2 weeks before the movie opened, we went out somewhere and filmed a scene on a boat where they're fighting, and then Harrison drags him down and puts the anchor back, pushes him down onto an anchor, so that he didn't kill him, but the other man's forceful nature and Harrison's skill glided his body so that the anchor went into his back and out of his front. So it was gruesome punishment, but he wasn't completely culpable of being an executioner.
Right.
So
alternative endings, basically. So
yeah. So that was a big lesson. You asked what was it like?
But I mean, generally the whole. I mean, it's your first studio picture, so obviously there's a huge amount of pressure. A lot of was pressure on you though.
There was pressure on me, but I was just a kid in a candy store.
Yeah.
Jesus, and I also had
Don McAlpine.
McAlpine was Rock of Gibraltar, smart, experienced. He'd been around the block a few times. He spoke the same lingo, and so many times he brought me out of a heated stupor, when I didn't know what to do or I'd done the wrong thing, and he'd just come over and sort of, hey mate, pull yourself together. Come on, you're gonna get this. I mean, this is simple. Come on, straight ahead.
Well, he's a school teacher. He's a school teacher.
He stands here, he stands there, the turnover, Bob's your uncle, stuff like that, which was what I needed amongst all this, because also I tried a few fancy things now and then, and Don would bring me back. And I remember once he shot this assassination. Harrison wasn't even in it. It was a couple of IRA guys, not IRS. The IRS would come later.
Oh, the dryer. The dryer.
The IRA guys were, one guy was an Irish freedom fighter. One of them was trying to kill the other. And anyway, I got a song by Clannad, an Irish group, and set the whole sequence to their music. And it was more like a rock video than a movie sequence. Harrison hated it. But it wasn't for the first time that John Goldwyn came to my rescue, because John, who was now head of production there at Paramount, looked at the sequence and said, it's wonderful. And later on, about 3 years later, when he looked at the first cut of Clear and Present Danger, Harrison again got stuck into one of these sequences. I had this 360-degree shot around the Pablo Escobar character, Escobedo, who was listening to helicopters or some sound flying around him, looking up into the air. And it was actually the Americans who were landing to try and break up his cartel. But Harrison just was livid about the shot, wanted a cut, and John Goldwyn stepped in again and said, that's brilliant, great, why would you cut that? Anyway, he saved me again.
So but he wasn't hard. Was he hard work, Harrison, most of the time, or not?
He was awfully experienced because he'd worked with the best.
Yeah. Yeah.
He'd worked with Peter Weir. He'd worked with
Spielberg.
He'd worked with them all.
Yeah. Yeah.
So he knew all the tricks.
Yeah.
And he could detect bullshit. And also, you know, he had a good a Geiger counter for direct malfeasance
Yeah.
and disease.
Yeah.
Neat. So, you know, for example, I might have told you this last time, but I did. I'll tell you again. There's a sequence towards the end of Clear and Present Danger where he confronts. Did I tell you this?
With the nose thing?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. You told me.
Okay. And I illustrated it.
Yeah. 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 You did that. Yeah. But I saw him on the Oscars the other day, and I could see that they were shooting him from any angle. I don't think he wanted to tell them, but I could see what you're talking about. Hey,
and it was good advice.
Yeah.
And,
so yeah. Well, he looks better. I mean, he's a handsome guy, and you know, not everybody's handsome from every angle, like myself. But he was at the top of his game too. So there was the narcissistic. Yeah, there was the narcissistic aspect, though.
No, it wasn't narcissistic.
No. Right.
It wasn't narcissistic.
Yeah.
He knew from being photographed by the best in the world for the last 25 years, he knew how his face looked, what was the best angle, and where to place the camera.
I didn't mean specifically. I just meant generally. You know, his behaviour would have been. I'm just asking you, really. Yeah.
It's great because he understood the relationship between him and his audience.
Right.
He could get away with, how far he could go, and everything. I mean, he's obsessed with that algorithm. His algorithm is something that he carries up here, and he says, "I can do this, I can do that, but I can't do this." I mean, I've many times offered him, you know, to play a nasty guy.
Yeah, don't want to do it.
Always
want to do it.
Same reply, you know.
Yeah.
My audience won't buy this.
Yeah.
So now that's restricted him in many ways in terms of what he tackles. But on the other hand, he's laughing, you know, because he's made such a great success out of being Harrison Ford.
Yeah, I mean.
Characters.
So you made 2 pictures with him, and then
I could have made 3. He wanted me to do a third one.
A third Tom Clancy?
No, well, we tried to do a third Tom Clancy. It was called Sum of All Fears.
Oh yeah, that was made with Ben Affleck, right?
It was, yeah. But
yeah.
Not before I spent about a year trying to get Harrison to do it.
Yeah.
So Terry Lansing rings up and says, "You've got to get Harrison." I said, "Look, you know, he just doesn't like the script. He doesn't like the ideas, everything." She said, "Well, can you go to him, talk to him, show him how you could turn the script into something that would work, turn the book into something that would work for him." So Mace Newfield, who was the producer, his son-in-law, his daughter's husband, and I were sent to New York for about a month. They put us in a hotel, and we would write outlines and ideas and stuff, and then we'd go uptown to Harrison's apartment on west, overlooking the park there on the west side.
Central Park West.
Central Park West, double apartment.
Right.
I mean, a house, mansion, an apartment. And we'd go every second day to see Harrison, and we'd talk through what we'd come up with. Do this, and do that, and do this, and do that. He would tell us what he liked and what he didn't like, and blah, blah, blah. And then we'd go back, and then, okay, he doesn't like that. So anyway, we spent about a month there.
Was it fairly convivial or not?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Of course.
Basically, the objective was to get something that he enjoyed.
Something that he would agree to do.
Yeah. Right. And you didn't. You couldn't get to that.
We couldn't get there. So he said, just don't believe it. I can't do it. So then they sent Ben Affleck to see me. So I met him, but in the meantime, I decided to do rabbit-proof fence.
Right, right.
I thought, you know what? Being the sort of maitre d', you know, Harrison Ford and coming and you like this? You like that? How about this? Everything I thought, this is fun. You know?
So did somebody offer you? Did somebody offer you a rabbit-proof fence?
Yeah, it had been offered to me, and the budget was to be $6 million. But if I did this other film, Some of All Fears, I get $6 million in my pocket.
Yeah.
And so I'm thinking, but then I thought, you know, I read the script of Rabbit-Proof Fence again, you know, and it was about these three little kids who got to escape from the lunatic asylum. I mean, the re-education place in Western Australia where they've been sent. And they've got to find their way home in order to save themselves and their culture and their family and their connection, you know. And I thought, oh, this is not a script about them, it's about me.
Decency.
I need to go home. I need to find my home. I need to go back to Mama.
Right, right.
I need to find out who I am. I'm that close to being a Hollywood hack from which there is no recovery. Where do they go? No, they disappear.
Yeah, yeah. Why is that, Phil? Because it's the next best thing. Is that what the next big thing?
Good films that were not brilliant. So, whereas if you fail and make your own movie, your own statement, you have respect.
Yeah, yeah. Good idea.
At the moment, you know, where I was thinking, okay, you know, this game, I think it's up. The game I've been playing, I think it's up. I've had enough. I can't stand it. I've got to get out of here. So I went back to Australia and started filming with my Handycam, which is still in there, the Sony Handycam. I filmed the ending to Rabbit-Proof Fence and said I'm going to make it no matter what. And if I don't make it, if I don't get any money to make it, I'll make it anyway on this little Handycam that's in there somewhere.
Yeah. Yeah. Here it is. Here we get the kit. Hey, Philip's going to get his Handycam.
There it is.
Yeah. Nice little thing. Got a fisheye lens on there, have you? Hey?
It was that one.
Oh, okay. That's a very wide angle, that one, is it?
Well, that's a macro. That's a close-up.
Oh, the macro camera, right. Macro lens, right.
That's the one that I started filming with.
So, but it turned out to be like a big turning point in your life, in your career and your life, didn't it? That picture, and it was from the heart too, wasn't it? So that was, that's a huge leap from making a giant Hollywood picture, isn't it?
Huge. It was a very big change, and so I went out. And then while I was prepping that film, I had to go to Moscow for a retrospective. And Moscow Film Festival. And I was staying at the National Hotel. And right next door to me was what's her name?
Angelina Jolie?
No.
No.
No. Actually, it's probably, but it wasn't. It was a lady who was head of Paramount.
Sherry Lansing.
Sherry Lansing, yeah.
Right.
So she says, we'll give you more money, blah, 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 blah. She said, I've been to Australia. And those Aborigines are incredible. I mean, they're another species.
Yeah.
Oh, hang on. What's happening?
Hi, Voya.
Have I got to feed them?
You can say hello, Voya. You can say hello. Hello. Hello.
How are you?
Hello.
I
saw some very pretty photos of you that from I think from his birthday party. Yeah. You must have had a lot of people there.
We had 16.
Whoa.
Including us.
I mean, including us. So 12 people.
Listen, do I have to make dinner?
Well, I just had food with some pies. Like the pies that you bought.
Right, but I've got chops for them.
But your chicken pie and the vegetable thing.
You put them in.
I have.
Hey, Lindy wants you to call her too. I saw her the other day.
Oh yeah.
Are you still friendly or not?
We not friendly. Definitely friendly. We haven't.
Hey, Lou.
No, well, she told me she.
In a while, I adore Lindsay.
Well, she told me you should. If I speak to you, you should call her.
Oh yeah, I will. And you friends with Deke?
Where are you going like this?
What with friends with what?
With Deke and
Yeah, with Deke and Pat and Eve, yeah, very close friends. But that Natalie Portman is living just behind Lindy now in Vaucluse.
Yeah.
Lindy just bought a new house, and so Natalie Portman's moved in. They're renting behind. But Natalie Portman's friends with you, isn't she?
Yeah, well, I know her.
The kids go to the school though. I heard something like that.
Yeah, they do. They do.
Yeah.
Have kids in the same class.
Can you plug this in? Get some light. There. No, just plug it in.
Wait.
Down there.
Don't let it.
There, look, the thing. I don't want Sandy to not be able to see. See that?
Oh my gosh.
Plug it in.
So what do I unplug? I
Don't unplug anything yet. Can't you just plug that in?
No, I can't. I have to unplug something.
All right, it's okay. Sandy.
Anyway, yeah, all right. Well, take care, Voya. Nice to see you.
All right. You have a good morning. I don't know what time it is there.
We're having a discussion. Yeah, we're having a discussion. It's
Are
good.
you guys on? Are you live?
Yeah, we're live. Yeah. Well, no, we just talk. No, it's not live to anybody else but to me. Anyway, so you're next door to Sherry Lansing. She's offering you more money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she told me, that one of the reasons I should not do the film is because those Aborigines are out there.
I don't understand what she meant. What did she mean?
She meant she was trying to
Talk you out of it.
Yeah, talk me out of it by telling me that Indigenous Australians were not worth the effort.
Right,
anyway.
right. Yeah, obviously had no idea. Yeah.
Yeah. So.
But she wanted you for clear and present. She wanted you for Sum of All Fears. She wanted you desperately for that.
Yeah. So, what's next in your?
What's next in my head? In my head is so the whole story of Rabbit Proof Fence, because it was a big change in your life.
That's a big story. Oh my
yeah.
God.
Well, just that. Well, you can talk. Well, we got plenty of time, mate. We can do number 3 with you anyway. It doesn't matter. So, whatever. But I'd like to hear about that. I'm sure most Australians would love to hear about the whole thing quickly, if you want.
Oh well, quickly.
Well, whatever, whatever. Take your time, whatever.
My wife's just leaving with the car.
Yeah. That's right.
Left the door open. Sorry about that. You sure I didn't tell you all this already?
No, we haven't talked about Patriot. We haven't talked about Rubber-Proof Fence. But I understand the story. But the thing that interests me is the casting, the locations, and then the whole thing of the success of the film.
Right. Well, as I said, I decided I'd go back to Australia, and with my Canon Handycam, I'd start filming, and if necessary, although it hadn't, I hope this still works, it hadn't been tried up to that time. I thought to myself, I'll make the film on that. But my friend Jeremy Thomas, great producer, he took on the film to finance it and to pre-sell it. And we raised enough money to start filming. And then in the first week, and this was a trick that I'd learned from Hollywood, we employed 7 stills photographers. We had 1 cinematographer, but 7 stills photographers for the first week. And they shot so many amazing stills of what we did in that first week. And then we sent them to Jeremy in London, and Jeremy produced the most amazing sales document, which he then took and sold the film. So he was sort of one step ahead of us, selling the movie, sending the money. And the movie was shot for about $6 million, which was $6 million more than we started with, and more than I was willing to make the film for nothing, if necessary, because I thought that it was time for Australians to receive that message. Now, when we were asking for money initially, everyone said, "You're nuts. No, Australians don't want to know about Indigenous stories." So, number one, you'll never raise the money. Number two, if you make the film, it's sure to be a disaster. You're not going to be able to sell it to Australians. You won't sell it anywhere. No one's interested. Just forget it. You're wasting your time. It's a fool's error. So for me, those were fighting words, because I was determined to prove them completely wrong. One, that we would raise the money. 2, that having raised the money, that we could use the same kind of tactics that Hollywood had taught me about mind-fucking the audience, about convincing them that unless they see this movie, their lives are not complete, which is what Hollywood has been doing all this time. Even Eskimos are convinced that Hollywood's version of their life is more true than the life they lead every day. They've convinced people all over the world. Which is a considerable achievement for a city-state called Los Angeles, and a suburb called Hollywood. The Romans did it, but they had swords, they had whips, they had, crucifixion devices, all sorts of things. Hollywood did it conquered the hearts and the minds without the sword, and they've continued to conquer.
Well, because it's such an effective thing to go and watch something on a wall and get emotionally connected to it. I mean, it's all these series that they're making.
It's not just that. It's also about the fact that Hollywood was able to collect the best and the brightest from all over the world. They would import us all. This week it's the Australians, next week it's the New Zealanders, then it'll be, the Samoans, the French, the Italians, whatever. Bring them in. Bring them in. They're the ones who can see. Why? Because it's all about original vision. What is original vision? Original vision is something you haven't seen before. Why would an Australian have original vision? Because you've never looked at the world through South Pacific eyes before. What is Hollywood discovering now? Forced by the Me Too movement, and forced by the Oscars so white and so on. They're discovering what they'd already discovered, which is that those who they haven't looked, the eyes that they haven't used are the ones that are going to give them the next sensation, the original vision.
Well, and it may be true, it may be true or not.
But it is true.
Well, it may not be true too, because I went to see Nomadland.
But what do we pay for? We pay for something we haven't seen before.
Well,
original vision is what we all covet.
Well, Roma was certainly an original vision, but I don't know about Nomadland.
Well, it is, but whatever. It doesn't matter.
No, because well, I don't know if it's about diversity. I don't know if it's about diversity or about, just to human beings, though. Just an individual human being, no matter what he is, whether American, this, Jewish, Italian, but there's just some people who have got original vision.
No. Not some people. Everyone has original
Well,
vision.
okay, well, everybody has. But
they've already seen your vision, they don't want it anymore.
Yeah, but not everybody wants to be a filmmaker.
Oh, yes, they do.
Well, they do. They want to be comedians, I think. Yeah.
Anyway, what's the story we're telling? Where are we back to?
We should.
So, Rabbit Proof Fence. So, what we did on Rabbit Proof Fence was the first person who was hired and the last person who was off the payroll was Emma Cooper, publicist, strategist. So she was on first, and she was still there 2.5 years later when we were trying to get every school kid in the country to watch the movie.
And you met her at Lotel, didn't you?
I can't own up to anything,
but I think you did. I think you met her at Lotel, and I think that. But she's had an incredible career subsequently, hasn't she?
Of course, she's a brilliant woman.
Isn't she working with Bruno Papandreou on everything now?
Well, I don't know about everything, but yes.
Yeah. Well, that's another one. That's another Tropicana. Because she was at the Tropicana every day too, the Bruno Papandreou.
But Emma was brilliant, and she was responsible for the marketing of Rabbit Proof Fence, not just in Australia, but all around the world.
And obviously she did a good job.
She did a great job.
Yeah.
Great job. Hang on.
Is that?
Oh, mate. I'm good. I'm just doing what am I doing?
A podcast.
I'm doing a podcast with Sandy Goodman. I'm not sure that I can talk to you. Sandy, yeah. No, he's in Sydney, I believe. Yeah. Okay, listen, I've got to get back to the podcast because okay, I've got to cook dinner for my children after I get off the podcast. But these podcasts go on for weeks with Sandy, so no, they do. I mean, the guy's got the gift of the gab. He also knows too much about me, so he keeps asking questions, like at the end of that. What about this and what about that? Didn't she meet you here? And wasn't that in Lotel in 1994? It's like, what the fuck is going on here? The guy, he's got an elephantine memory, but also he just knows too much. He should be on Andy Cohen's show. Bravo. He should have his own Andy Cohen, because he deals in trivia.
His own Howard Stern, mate. That's what he wants.
Plead the fifth, yeah. No, I don't want to plead the fifth. I'm very.
Who is that? Who is that? Who's on there? Who's that? Who is it?
Ian Sutherland.
I don't know him. Do I know him?
Hello, Sandy, he says.
Who's Ian Sutherland?
Talk to him, Ian.
Do I know you from somewhere? Hey?
He wants to know if he knows you, Ian. Oh, actually, my speaker doesn't work, so it's no use me trying to talk to him through you or you through him.
Is he Aussie? An Aussie? Is he Aussie? Aussie. Oh, okay. I don't know him.
Speak to you later.
All right. Bye, Ian.
Bye.
So yeah, so Emma Cooper, the publicist, and yeah.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
So she, you know, what we decided was that we were going to do what Hollywood does, which is we'll mind fuck the Australian audience. We will start a campaign that goes for 2 years so that by the time the film opens, they feel inadequate if they don't go and see it. That was our aim.
And it worked. And it worked.
Hollywood,
Yeah.
you know, just keep plugging
Yeah.
away this article, that article. People can't escape it. Rabbit-proof fence. Let's get out of here. The only way we can relieve the tension is to go and see the movie. So that's what we did with the film, as well as selling it everywhere in the world.
But the issue of Stolen Generation, that was one of the. I mean, you were one of the first to really make that a big issue. You know, really.
Well, I don't know whether I was the first. There's been a report come out.
Yeah, I know, but it wasn't. I mean, you had huge publicity for your film, and so you had obviously that got the message widely.
But you know, after I read the script, I came back to Australia and I sort of licked my finger, put it up, and I could feel just from doing that the time was right for this story, that it could work, that Australians were looking for redemption for what had been a checkered relationship.
Well, I think it was short-lived.
I don't know whether it's short-lived. I mean, you know, education is the way to the future, and I think you know, now looking at the changes that have been made in curriculum and so on, what is being studied, I think there has been major change.
Still a lot of anti-Semitism.
That's a different form of racism.
No, that's not even racism. That's okay. Anti-Semitism is okay, they say.
Really? Who says?
Well, because the Jews can take care of themselves, but obviously we've had our issues.
Okay. You want me to engage in this one?
No, but I just want some self-pity right now. And that, you know, it's fair enough. It's that time of the day. Anyway, yes. So, and you're all the actors. A lot of the actors were Aboriginal actors or non-actors.
No, the kids were non-actors because you couldn't. Not like there's a mob of child actors. Child Aboriginal actors.
Yeah.
So we had to try and find people.
Yeah.
And finally, I realized that the way to create characters was to find 3 distinct young Indigenous children, who were like the characters that had been written in the screenplay. So in other words, if they just behaved themselves, if they behaved as themselves, if they felt comfortable enough to be themselves on screen, then we would have 3 distinct personalities for the audience to relate to.
Yeah.
So it was really about casting 3 distinct types: a strong older girl, a hapless middle girl, and a charming and cute a younger child. That we would have these, you know, different personalities.
So the Aboriginal community was very supportive of the project as well, generally.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Because for them, and we must remember that this removal policy, which was enacted supposedly in the best interests of of the mixed race Indigenous.
Isn't it always?
Um, yeah, well, I don't know if it was in the case of the Jews. I think that was just straight out
Well,
malice.
so it's called subterfuge anyway. That's what it's called.
I don't think they were thinking that slaughtering 6 million people was in their own interests. I think it was, that was a different story. But
Yeah.
where was I?
Yeah, but there was the total lack of compassion. You know?
So many. I mean, we don't realize it, you and I, but although we're all realizing it a lot more than we used to, that black people in general, everywhere, and particularly in colonized societies like America, Australia, they've lived, they've learned to accept that not being accepted, that being discriminated against, that being denied is par for the course. That's a good day. That's a good day. So the Aboriginal communities around Australia, yes, supported the film because it validated their own persecution and experience. And at screenings all over the country, this was affirmed for me, because Indigenous audiences would turn up, and within 10 minutes, they'd be catatonic from watching the events on the screen.
Because you had a go at the oppressors, though, didn't you?
No, because they were forced to relive what they had tried to forget.
Right.
What they had been taught to forget. Because remember that when you were growing up, even, and when I was growing up in particular, there were these people who lived outside the town, but we never talked about them. Who are those people who live on that reservation, on that reserve? Where do they go? When we go to school, where do they go? When we live our lives, where are they? Well, they're out there. They've all been locked up.
Out of sight, out of mind, out of sight, out of mind. That's how it is, isn't it?
And so, we didn't really know. I mean, it's straight back to what? Can the Germans claim that they didn't know?
No. They have constantly, but that's total bullshit. They knew everything.
Yeah, well, maybe it was bullshit for us too. It's just that there was the education system. Well, I think I spoke to you about this until the ascendancy of Indigenous sportsmen and women. Australia just refused to admit that these people were, well, we didn't admit that they were human. They were not counted in the census. They couldn't vote. It was like, they are the ghosts.
Yeah, I know, but we're in 2021 and things haven't changed at all either, really. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. They're still out there in the reservation, and they're still out of mind, out of sight. And I do a show in those places, and there's never Aboriginal people at my shows. Or when Martin Sharp sent me to Palm Island in just before he died, he'd set me up there, and I did a show just for the Aboriginal people. And I spent the whole time calling the white people, fucking white cunts. And they loved it. They absolutely loved it. So.
Oh, of course. Anyway. We'll redirect this conversation to something that I can focus on. You would.
Well, no. Well, okay, so let's talk about the reception of the movie when it was finished. Let's talk about that. And all over the place. Oh, you took it to Cannes, didn't you?
Well, no, we didn't.
Right.
We didn't get into Cannes.
Right. Well,
yeah.
That's because it's France. Yeah. Anyway, yeah, and
the French said it should have been all in language, and so therefore it invalidated itself.
Well, is that bullshit or not?
I don't know.
Anyway, so how did it go? How did it go? I mean, how did it go at the box office?
No, it went great. Yeah, it
Yeah,
did very
yeah.
well in Australia I mean, and in America and England in particular, did extremely well.
Yeah.
South Africa, Turkey was a huge market for it. I don't know.
Israel, did it go well in Israel?
Yes,
Yeah,
Israel
yeah.
did well. Israel comparatively, but
Yeah.
the biggest markets were America, England, I mean, UK,
Yeah.
Turkey, Australia.
And you got accolades for making that movie, though, you know.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
it was a big success.
And you won some awards, didn't you, with that? Was only Australian awards or?
Australian awards, overseas awards, whatever.
Yeah.
It was a rebirth for me, as I had thought that it might be, that as I had woken up in the middle of the night and thought, I've got to leave here and get out of here and go back and just do this movie.
So from an ideological perspective, I mean, because you gave you some gravitas, not only as a professional but also as a human being.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So what was the next move then? So Sum of All Fears went, and then Clear and Present Danger.
Then straight after, while I was shooting
Rabbit Proof Fence.
I'd already had Michael Caine in the lead role in
Quite American.
Quite American, and but that wasn't enough. I'd offered the film, and he'd wanted to do it to Johnny Depp, but Johnny Depp couldn't get arrested at that time. And then one Sunday at 9 o'clock, I got a message to say that the name of the actor?
Brendan Fraser.
You know all the answers and the question. Brendan Fraser wanted to play the part of Alton File, the part that I'd offered to.
And he was pretty hot then, wasn't he?
It was the Sunday that his new film, what was it called?
The Mummy.
Thank you. The Mummy opened. Mummy 2 opened.
Yeah.
And it opened big. He signed on at 9 o'clock, and by 11 a.m., the movie was a go picture. You know, I was shooting Rabbit Proof Fence, and suddenly I had another film, but it had to be shot almost immediately. The Rabbit Proof Fence finished shooting. Within 6 weeks, it had to be shot.
In Vietnam.
In Vietnam.
Yeah.
We finished Rabbit Proof Fence in South Australia, and then flew directly to Saigon.
So are you a fan of Graham Greene? Were you a fan of Graham Greene? Yeah. What, Our Man in Havana?
All of them.
Yeah.
I wanted to make the film for 7 or 8 years.
Yeah.
It always been, can you find the right actors who will generate pre-sales, who will allow the financing of the film.
Did you enjoy working with Michael Caine?
Oh, Michael was a joy. Yeah.
Phillip, I tell you what, you're a good man. You're a good man, Phillip, and I really want to work with you on this picture. Is that all right?
That's it. But he, from having made 107 films at the time, he knew that his success was totally dependent on the director.
On what?
The director.
Right. Yeah.
He knew that.
Yeah.
So from the time he woke up to the time he went to bed, he just tried to make you stronger. That's what he tried to do with every day that he was on the film. Tried to make you feel good about your instincts. Tried to make you feel good about your decisions. He may have felt that your decisions were all wrong, but he never said that. He always said, he just was, that's great. Yeah, let's do that.
Yeah.
I'd love to do that. Blah, blah, blah. I mean, it was like, what the hell? I thought, Jesus. after I've been in Hollywood, you know, oh yeah, photograph my nose this way and blah blah blah. Michael was like this dream. It was like a dream. I mean, I thought I was the one that was smoking opium, you know, not his character. I mean, he was just a delight because he kept supporting you in every way. I mean,
but also, I mean, also he's a fine actor and he's got a huge body of work and he's made lots of turkeys and he knows the business.
That too.
Yeah.
But, so he was just amazing. When we went to Vietnam, Vietnamese. I've got to go soon. So I've got to cook dinner for the kids.
That's all right. That's okay.
What's happening? The pies are ready. Listen,
Okay. You could. You want to wrap it up soon, Phil? You want to wrap it up?
Listen, come here. You want me to put you? Listen, tell what I've got for you.
Is that Lou? Is that Lou?
Yeah. Come in, Lou. Say hello.
Come and say hello, Lou.
Say hello. Here he is.
Hi.
Hi.
How are you?
Yeah.
Long time no see.
I'm trying to see.
He's 13 now.
13.
Stand up
Really?
straight.
Oh, terrific. How tall are you? 6 foot, over 6 foot?
I don't know. I think so.
Oh, good on you. Good on you.
So listen, do you want some chops? I've got some great chops. Oh, okay.
Take care, mate. Nice to talk to you.
I'm going to come down. I'm going to wrap this up now and I'll come back and do an episode later.
So we can just talk about, we can just talk. Well, I just want to talk about salt. Can we talk about salt and then you can go if you want. Is that all right?
That's a big thing. I can't talk about salt now. I'll have to come back to it.
All right. No, but we can come back to it. But well, what can we end on today then?
Well, we just ended. I think.
You think that's enough with the Quiet America?
Guys are ready.
Yeah. Okay. So you can go. All right. Hey, Andrew.
Yeah.
Philip's going to make dinner for his kids.
Come back on the weekend, I promise.
Yeah. No. So we'll come back. We'll do another. No, we'll do another one. We'll do a number 3.
Yeah,
So.
Andrew, I'll be there. I'll be
Okay.
there.
No. It's good. It's always good. It's always good.
Well,
It's.
I'll do.
We can make 100 of these. It doesn't matter. You're a famous guy. You're nearly as famous as me. So.
Okay. All right.
Bye, Phil.